And we are back.
Let's get it, Oos. Let's get it, Oos.
Let's get it. We are on Professional Wrestling, the podcast. Back for a third time. We have to get into the mind of a wrestler, and who better but my favorite and only wrestling client, the one, the only, Mason Rush. Mason, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here again.
How are the Hartford Whalers doing?
We should make a thing of it.
Well, we seem to be, certainly.
I like it.
So tell me, how are the Hartford Whalers doing right now?
They're doing well. They're in Carolina and putting up some wins.
Apparently, they may even get an expansion team at some point.
Yeah,
but,
we got. I watched the greatest Whaler of all time, Jeff O'Neill, on Overdrive every day at 4 o'clock. It's great.
Some debate it's Ron Francis, but we'll leave that debate.
There's no debate.
But this ain't no hockey talk right now.
Yeah, no, we're not
this
talking
is
about
all
hockey.
about wrestling talk. A couple weeks back, we celebrated Dirty Dom Mysterio Day. Dom winning his first singles championship.
What a shocker.
Loving it.
What a shocker.
Loving it. We got big event coming up for WWE. It's always another pay-per-view, right? SummerSlam in Detroit. That's a biggie. The world of wrestling is a buzz right now. I truly feel, Mason, that we are going into yet another golden era. There was a long little halt there when, WCW disappeared. WWE was the only real show in town. ECW's gone. TNA's gone. And there wasn't much going on. It was just getting very stale, very bland. Triple H in charge, NXT coming on board, then NXT 2.0, AEW coming on, and now there's competition again. Now there's excitement. You have joined the ranks of professional wrestling in the best possible time, in my estimation.
As a athletically built person, yeah, absolutely, right? Again, like we said earlier, if you're not 6'6", 280 in the 70s and 80s, 90s, you're not really getting a look as a real authentic professional wrestler. And that's even people I know to this day that haven't paid attention over the last 10 years will still say, you're a wrestler, but you're not a steroid freak, right? And I say to them, well, you obviously haven't watched wrestling lately because they've gone away from that. These are athletic-looking people, men and women, that come from all kinds of backgrounds: CrossFit, weightlifting, sports, right? Different kinds of university sports. It's not really anymore the muscle-bound people that can barely move but look awesome. It's now how you perform.
I'm not going to badmouth the guy because I'm a big fan of Big Bill, Morrissey, whatever you want to call him.
Big Cass.
Big Cass, Big Bill, whatever you want to call him.
You can't teach that.
He's what, 7 foot something?
7 foot something.
Big boy, right? Comes all oiled up.
Yeah.
And what's the move? It's a choke slam. That's it.
Yeah, it's the big one step over the top rope. I'm a big guy. Slow choke slam. Squash
40
match.
years ago, that's your champion. WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4, there's your heavyweight champion. 100%. That's all we needed in life. I'm sorry to say, but, he's gone to the ranks of pretty much jobbing at this point, coming into some sort of faction, because that's not in demand anymore. It's over. That era is gone.
100%.
We need athleticism. We need people to move in the ring. And you need to be able to talk on the mic. You need to have it all these days.
You look at the big guys in the WWE today, right? I would say Braun Strowman. What did he have to do over the last couple of years? Totally change his physique, right? Braun Strowman weighs and measures all his food, works out like an animal. He was a competitive power lifter, right? These aren't just meatheads that have no mobility and are pretty much useless out of a wrestling ring. Right, and even a guy like Braun Strowman wasn't that, but had to become that to enter this new phase of professional wrestling where you look more human, more natural.
And I never thought of it that way, but if you think about it from the 80s, 90s, also guys are passing a lot in their 30s and 40s. Well, you're not doing the mobility training. you're having a steady diet of steroids and booze and
other things.
And other things. And a lot of times, and when they overdose, it's on some sort of narcotic with alcohol and painkillers.
Always.
Because they weren't taking care of their bodies. Yeah. Now, when you notice, you look on social media, where are you seeing Austin Theory? Is Austin Theory at the bar every night? Where are we seeing Austin Theory? He's at the gym.
In the gym. Yeah. And that's, again, I mean, it's hard to say you want to emulate a 25-year-old kid, but if there is something I'll take from Austin Theory, it's his work ethic and his no quit attitude. You tell him no, and he'll figure out a way to make it into a yes. And that's how you succeed in life, and especially in the wrestling world.
You're talking that in an earlier episode about how you love wrestling. You loved it as a kid growing up. You're an avid watcher today. When you're watching wrestling into this age, who are some of the wrestlers that you most enjoy to watch for their work?
There's a few that I really, really like these days. I would say, I mean, obviously Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is a classic. I would say if anybody's going to say, you know, what if the wrestler today, they're not all like the Giant, or they're not all like Scott Steiner, like what would be a body type that is today's wrestler? You look at Seth Rollins. That's CrossFitter, weightlifter, mobility. He's into fitness, into nutrition, and because of that is able to have an amazing career in the wrestling ring. Finn Balor, another fantastic wrestler, hard worker, put in the work all over the world, right? He paid his dues, speaking of paying your dues, and now look what's happening. He's getting his major push. His feud with Seth Rollins from years ago is coming back. It's apparent again. It's meaningful. The promo that they just did was unreal. Mm-hmm. You know that Seth Rollins takes an opponent seriously when he takes his Joker gimmick away. When he gets serious and talks to you one-on-one like he did in that promo last night or 2 nights ago, you know he takes Finn Balor seriously. So the fact that those two are going to battle each other, those are two people I look up to a lot. That match is going to be awesome when it happens. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good wrestlers that I look up to, but I say those two are some of the top ones. And then, like I said, Austin Theory as well, in terms of confidence, in terms of physique, and just the overall way he carries himself as a wrestler, always in character, always making sure he's looking the right way. And from what I understand too, all those guys are great with the fans, right? They're great with kids, stuff like that. So I would say those are 3 guys that are currently wrestling that I would say I want to emulate, or I would say I'm the most similar to. And then if I had to say my favorite wrestler of all time overall, Randy Orton would be probably my favorite overall wrestler, yeah. And if there's one movement set style that I would emulate, I would say that it would be the Legend Killer.
He's got to be now, mid-40s?
Yeah.
And he looks to me in better shape today than when he came up in his early 20s. How has he been able to do? Obviously, he's had his injuries and everything else, but he's had a very long career. He plans to go until he's 50. Yeah. How has he been able to do it this consistently in your mind? Is it exercise, nutrition? What is his secret in your estimation looking at him?
Well, you can see, and I've heard in a lot of different interviews, that the older he got, the more serious he took it. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of his major injuries were earlier in his career, when he was, as he would say, not living a lifestyle he'd be proud of today. Mm-hmm. And then as you get older, you go from the Joker class clown to the leader and role model of the locker room. And then it becomes on you to set an example. So you don't want to do all those things. You don't want to be the clown anymore. And you have kids, you grow up, and you start realizing, if I want to do this, I have to get into fitness. I have to start doing mobility and taking care of myself. When you're 20 years old, 25 years old, you can take a lot more abuse without having to take care of yourself than you can the older you get. So if you're getting older while making your diet better, working on your nutrition, strength and conditioning, it's not crazy that people improve as they age, especially when you start with just raw talent, right? There wasn't, from what I understand, much work ethic at the beginning of Randy's career. It came later, once he realized, if I want to do this for 20 years, I got to put in the work.
Does the name Mr. Perfect mean anything to you?
Yeah.
So he was a wrestler, back
course.
in the day. He came up, back. Kurt Hennig. Was a third generation wrestler, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, his dad was a wrestler and well-known one. He came up in the AWA at the time, which is where Hulk Hogan got his start, and then WWF, which became WWE, to be able to compete, just bought up all the good wrestlers and basically folded that promotion. But when he came up, it was interesting because that was back in the day in the 80s or the 90s. That's when you had those vignettes. Now you're seeing them a little bit. They're shooting it with Baron Corbin in NXT. Karrion Kross is notorious for them.
Edge had some at the beginning when he was coming back.
As Judgment Day.
Bray Wyatt. Yeah.
Love the vignettes. Vignettes are all about it. It gets fans excited, everything else. But the Mr. Perfect vignettes, he was always playing a different sport. They picked something, he could hit a baseball, run to the outfield and catch it.
My personal favorite was the throwing himself a touchdown pass. That's probably my favorite Mr. Perfect. In fact, there's a lot, like when you train in wrestling and you're working on different movements, drop down, leapfrog, stuff like that. Everyone has different ways of saying things. At my Hamilton gym, when you do a drop down, or not so much of a drop down, but you kind of put your hands on the ground and whatever it's called. That's what we call it, Mr. Perfect. I forget what it's the actual technical name, but we do movements that we name after Mr. Perfect.
If you are a wrestling fan of any era, there's a documentary. You have to watch the Mr. Perfect documentary. It's unbelievable.
He's hilarious.
But the thing that was interesting, Mason, at the time was people talking about it, that a lot of the stuff was not always staged. Yes, he did not throw himself a touchdown pass, but he could throw a football that way. Yeah. He could do horseshoes. He was that good at darts. He was that kind of athlete. He played every sport imaginable in high school, college, came up in Minneapolis. Rick Rude came from there as well. Yeah. There's certain hotbeds of wrestling. Minnesota was one of them.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling, too, was a big one.
From over there, yeah.
Undertaker came.
Jim Cornette was the one running it at the time. Yeah. So there's little pockets and stuff. And Mr. Perfect, at the end of the day, when he left the earth too soon, he liked to party. He was known as a drinker.
Yeah.
He became part of the Rednecks, the Cowboy Rednecks on WCW, and Rap is Crap. He had that song. But that was his personality, but he liked to party on it. But he had the physique. He put the time in the gym, and it's finding that combination. So even if you're doing that, that lifestyle will catch up with you. And good thing that Randy Orton figured out early. Unfortunately, Mr. Perfect did not.
I think it's just the locker room in general. It's the way that the locker room is run, right? Your locker room leaders are not doing those things, so the younger guys are not going to do those things, right? It's a new generation. It's more emphasis on health and fitness, and not just what you're doing in the ring, but what you're doing out of the ring as well, to make you better when you get back in the ring, right? If your time between your appearances is spent in the bar or the casino or doing whatever, the next time you get back in the ring, the confidence isn't going to be as high as if you were eating, sleeping, training, and preparing yourself to execute.
Think about any sport, like basketball, football, baseball. Back in the days, in the 80s, 90s, 70s, in the off season, you went off and just went to live on the farm or went drinking. Yeah. You came out of shape, and spring training camp, that was when you got into shape. Now they're going to performance centers, and guess what?
Season anymore.
You come in from the off season, you're out of shape, you're getting cut. Yep. It's over. And I know you've all seen glimpses on NXT. I know you have, but look into the performance center where they show all those rings, show the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
It is the real deal over there. You get accepted into NXT and you're training. You are training to be a professional wrestler. You are eat, breathe, sleeping wrestling.
Sounds like a dream.
For some, a nightmare, but for those that are ready for it, a true dream. So let's talk about dreams right now. Let's play a little game if you're up for some fun.
Always up for some fun.
So let's start game number one. AEW, WWE. Let's start with AEW. AEW, you get called up there. They're ready to go with you. You're going to do a dark match, and you're going to call up to the main roster. Some dream opponents for you. When you watch guys out there in AEW, you think, wow, I'd love to face them in a ring. Any particular names come to mind?
Well, I love to wrestle MJF, but he doesn't really wrestle so much. So if I was one of the 4 matches in his year, then that would be fantastic. Sammy Guevara, high flyer. That would be a great match. I'd love to shit out of Jack Perry. That would just be fun.
Jungle Boy or no, Jungle Jack now?
Whatever he is.
Oh, he's Jungle Jack
Jungle
now.
Jack, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of guys in AEW.
You might as well just take all the pillars. Why don't we just give you Darby? What about Darby Allin?
We could go in. I'll go in fresh, and we could have all the JAS one at a time come in. We'll take them out one by one. Daddy Magic, Jericho, all of them.
Well, I'm really sorry to break it to you, but the JAS may be imploding, and Jericho may be joining the Don Callis family. There's rumors of this.
Then we'll go after them. Either one, it doesn't matter. Hook, any of these young up and comers, none of them scare me.
Hook, I watch him. He comes in, he puts his back to you, right? And he's got a 30-second match, does a couple of moves. Is it because he's that badass and he's that good, or is it because are they covering up something there?
I don't know. I'm still not sold on Hook and the character, the mystique, the whole thing. I'm not saying I won't be, but as of now, he's still Taz's son to me. He's not really kind of the way Austin Theory is in WWE, where it's still, if you don't believe your gimmick yet, I can't believe your gimmick yet, right? And it's not never, but right now I don't see it.
And him and Solo Sikoa, I love what I'm seeing in the ring from them personally, but I also think every time I hear them talk on the mic, I cringe. So there's certain guys, they need managers, like chosen lawyers.
100%.
And even though there's only one chosen lawyer really is a manager, and you want to keep them away from the mic as quickly as possible. Now, going to WWE, you're going to jump in the ring over there. Who's some guys you want to tussle with?
I find there was a point in time where I've told you, I thought AEW about a year ago was putting on a better product than WWE weekly.
Yes.
I thought that WWE was a little thin in the roster, but that changed. They brought back SummerSlam last year. They brought back new factions, new wrestlers, a whole bunch of stuff. So I think over the last year, WWE has extremely surpassed AEW, unfortunately, in terms of just production value, fun to watch, right? Production, stuff like that. And I would say that in WWE, there's a lot more people that stick out to me that I would want to wrestle. So obviously, it would be great to wrestle Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio. It would be amazing. Go back in time, right? Go wrestle DDP. Go wrestle, say Hulk Hogan, because that would just be a classic match. But who wouldn't want to take a choke slam from The Undertaker, right? Like there's some cool things that you would want. HBK, me and wrestling Shawn Michaels would be unreal. Taking some Sweet Chin music would be legendary. So there's lots of people that would be interesting to me. What would be more interesting to me is the up and coming people, because those are the ones we're gonna clash there, right? The people that are wrestling now, maybe it might happen, but I like the indie wrestlers, the local indie wrestlers, the guys that I train with, the guys that train at other facilities in the area. That's pretty much more on my mind now than wrestling with WWE wrestlers would be local people.
Got to obliterate everybody first to get there.
That's it, right? One step at a time. So
one step at a time. I'm loving it. One other thing I'm loving, so we're playing this what if game, but a recent development really got me excited because we've been talking about this in our training sessions. One of the things we do, we go to the gym, Mason trains me and gets me, make sure I'm fit, and we talk about what's going on in the world of wrestling. And so one topic we did not cover yet, because I kept talking about this, is why can't they bring back the Hurt Business? I don't understand this. Bobby Lashley.
I think they will. I think
all of a sudden. And, I keep asking, Dom needs to win the belt. Baron Corbin needs to go back to his original gimmick. And slowly, things, you manifest these things and things come into fruition. Street Profits jump into a limo. Who do they jump into a limo?
I was going to say, it's been a few weeks since the Street Profits have been main players on the card. It's been same thing with Bobby Lashley. Where's he been the last little while?
Right.
MVP, where's he been? So it's usually when this stuff starts to happen, maybe it's SummerSlam, maybe it's another big event where they get a huge pop, but I have a feeling those guys will be coming out together pretty soon. So they're setting the stage.
And I felt, MVP was a great manager. I like MVP talking for Lashley. Lashley had more of an allure when he had a manager talking for him. But he's really upgrading the world from Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander going to the Street Profits.
Yeah.
I like this combination a lot. That's one of the things about factions. Factions can change your whole life all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
well, factions, yeah. I mean, Dawkins, right? Montez Ford, Dawkins was set up to fail. That guy was not set up to be a successful WWE wrestler. He was set up to be the sideshow to Montez Ford, who was then going to go on and become a great singles wrestler. I think he proved everyone wrong.
Yep.
Showed how athletic he was. He's good on the mic. He's got good charisma. And I think he made a job for himself because he was not set up to do what he's doing right now. So the fact that they're going to start a new faction with a Hurt Business, all this stuff, there's a lot of wrestlers who have done it, but that's a perfect example of somebody who was just there to help someone else that made a name for themselves.
Now going to the AEW side, I'm really excited about this tag team. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but Better Than You Baby has been killing it. I love the vignettes, watching them work out at the gym together, play video games together. They come out and do the entrance. I think this thing needs to go on for a long, long time. How do you see it? What's your take on this new found friendship and tag team?
I think I don't mind it. You had so long where MJF was the devil. You don't mess with the devil. You know, I'm the devil, right? Like, so if you're going to go and be that dark, villainous character, you can't also be a gym bro, buddy, best friend guy with Adam Cole, Mr. Babyface, right? So luckily, MJF is AEW and can do whatever he wants. He could be this today, that tomorrow, and everyone's going to eat it up. But that's not easy to do. As a wrestler, that's extreme skill on his part to be able to do that. And it's also really highlighting the fact that Adam Cole needs a right-hand man like MJF to get him over, because he wasn't doing it on his own, and he was basically Mrs. Britt Baker for the last year, right? Like,
you know, I'm not an Adam Cole guy, by any stretch of the imagination.
And I am. I like the shtick, but yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
It's fine. But
MJF makes him look cool.
MJF makes him look cool.
Looks way cooler now. He makes him look.
And that's a 25-year-old guy with a 34-year-old guy, right? Like, that's a 34-year-old man needs a 25-year-old MJF to take him to the gym and arcades and make him seem cool, right? If that's what gets you going, sure. But the winner is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. That's the winner in all this.
And also, you can tell they have real chemistry. Like, these guys obviously are enjoying this thing. They're playing it out for a while.
What you can tell is that MJF is not the devil, and that's the act. And in real life, he really is, which has been kind of goes against everything he's built for his career since day one, which is always in character, always kayfabe, always, right? Because exactly, how can you anyway, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth is what I'm getting at. You can't be the devil, dark villain, and then the next day you're kissing Adam Cole. You know what I mean? You can't. It doesn't work like that.
And that's where I love it, that, even with Jericho, we know when Judas plays and the fans go bananas. We had another episode of Professional Wrestling. We talked about the top sing-alongs, and that's, I believe, finished at number 2. Judas is fantastic.
What was number 1?
Number 1, if I'm not mistaken, was the Seth Rollins sing-along song.
Okay, yeah.
They really, Burn It Down is really...
That's fair. Yeah, he gets his ovations.
And they sing along for 5 minutes sometimes, but
yeah,
I love the Judas sing along.
Judas is a great song, just in general.
But I'm sorry, when you're losing to Action Andretti and things are getting stale, Jericho is the king of this. He changes his nickname, changes his faction. He just reinvents himself over and over and over again. And that's one of the things I was going to tell you now. As your manager, as a chosen lawyer, coming to you and telling you, Mason Rush, buddy, when this thing is going to happen, guess what? We are going to have to look at possible tag team partners at some points, certain factions. Yeah. If we were jumping in right now, if you had to have a tag team partner currently in professional wrestling, who would you think would work well for your style?
In terms of like a WWE
or AEW?
If I had to pick
your ideal tag team partner that you think you guys would work well together on all levels.
It's a good question.
It's tricky, right?
It's a good question. Because
because you got to, as far as
maybe like a Kevin Owens, a KO, something like that, because you got
two Canadians, no nonsense.
Two Canadians, no nonsense, but he's a little bit more brash. I'm a little bit more quiet. I'm a little bit more methodical. He's a little bit more in your face. I think that the combination of that would be great. And then go off the board, Kaiser from Imperium. That would be a great tag team partner because he's also the pretty opposite to me.
Well, I gotta say, on both fronts, my sources are telling me we could be in luck because any day now, if not done already, KO is, sort of spoilers for people, he is going to turn on Sami Zayn, by the way. He's going to turn super heel yet again. They're going to have their little program together. KO is going to be in need of another partner, so we could certainly call him up.
Yeah, one day.
And in Imperium, Vinci's, if not gone already, he's got one foot out the door.
That's why I think you got exactly. So Kevin Owens will be needing a partner. Giovanni Vinci's going to be ousted, which means Kaiser's going to need a partner. So
Kaiser's another second, third generation wrestler.
Great wrestler.
Go and you all see him on WWE when he wins his matches.
Max Kaiser, is that his name?
Why am I blanking right now?
Yeah, I think. Anyway, I don't even know.
Yes.
Something Ludwig Kaiser.
Ludwig Kaiser.
Yes. Ludwig Kaiser.
No, because I'm trying to think of his real name right now.
I was on MJF thinking Max. Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser.
Because he's actually, I believe, a third generation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And this person was born into wrestling. And man, you know what? I think he's very underrated. I love them in NXT as a tag team. I think WWE did not do enough with them. I think Gunther went to the moon, certainly, but they were kind of the sideshow, much like you're talking about with Dawkins. And I think they don't get the respect. I think you, with Kaiser, teamed up together. I think we're going to get Imperium back that respect.
Or just a new faction in general, because Gunther might leave his buddies. You never know.
Listen,
he's getting too big for his own good. He's doing big promos, yelling at the crowd. You never know. He's getting up there.
2024, he's winning one of the heavyweight belts.
That's what I was going to say. I think they're pushing for him to move up the rankings, and he's a great villain, great champion.
My sources are telling me that Rumble win 2024 is going to happen for him, and I like the switch over from Walter. If you look at where a persona, a name change, factioning-wise, everything works for him on every level. Yeah. He is going to the moon right now and absolutely loving what I'm seeing for him. So, that being said now, Mason Rush, where we are sitting today and where we're going, there's going to be a lot more sacrifices ahead. You are aware of this, and as far as people that are thinking about getting into an industry, seeing your story and saying, wow, Mason Rush, you know what? I want to be the next Mason Rush. What are some things you could tell people as far as sacrifices go, if you have any hopes at all of making this a reality? Because it certainly ain't easy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best background that you can have to then walk into a wrestling ring and become a wrestler is strength and conditioning, is learning how to go to a gym, learning how to train properly, whether that's hiring a trainer or joining a gym where they have, classes that teach you with coaches, but learning how to use a barbell and weights, learning how to make your body mobile, learning how to eat properly, learning how to sleep properly, that will set you up so that if you ever want to do anything, especially wrestling, you'll have a leg up on everybody there. And I'm living proof of that, right? I wasn't a young buck walking into a wrestling ring, 20 years old, 21, because I spent all that time getting to a point where I could then walk in and be a star on my first day.
But let me ask you like a really silly question, but sitting where you are today, you're not 19 years old, but correct me if I'm wrong, I see a 25-year-old played college football, wants to be a wrestler. You come in where you are at. To me, you seem to have a lot less mileage on your body. You don't have that kind of wear and tear. Not every athlete is created equally. 100%. Not every age is created equally. And if we're going to point to an example, you brought him up before to me in person, it's LA Knight.
Oh, well, of course, LA Knight. Everyone loves to use DDP or Batista, 36, 35 when they started kind of thing. But like I was saying before, I think that if you can be in your 30s, early 40s, but still have a great physique, great build, great confidence, I think that helps get a character over more than a young Austin Theory or Dom Mysterio as a face, right? It's very hard to be a 25-year-old boy and try and tell a grown man that this is what's up, right? And then when that LA Knight grown man comes back at you, it really does look like a right, son, kind of moment, right? Like it's, and that's what I think it is, right? You get like when Cena talks to Theory, it's a father talking to a son. It's very hard to get Austin Theory over, right? When he's just really at the end of the day, a kid trying to pretend that he's a man. So if you show up as already a believable grown man, you're going to be taken seriously right away. And I think that's why you see the top guys, Finn Balor, 41, LA Knight, 41, Damian Priest, 41, right? Like Chris Jericho, 52, right? You see all these guys, like your wrestling career, assuming you don't come into wrestling injured and hurt, you've got 10 years if you start at 30, easily, right? And a 10-year career in the NFL is almost as long as you can go, right? A 2-year career in the NFL is average.
Yep.
So in any pro sport, you make it 5 to 10 years and you've beaten the average right away. And what other sport can you do that starting in your 30s?
And if you start in your 20s, your early 20s especially, and you wrestle without understanding with life experience what you need to do,
I watch it all the time.
You can be a very broken 30.
You go too hard, too fast.
Yeah.
Your wrestling matches before you're ready. You see the big superplexes on TV, so you want to do them. You want the high-flying moves before your body and your muscles are ready to take that impact. Yeah, you're a 30-year-old who can barely walk, and you're the guy in the class saying, I'm not bumping today. I don't feel like bumping today. I'm going to save it for the match. Yeah. Whereas you get a guy like me, I'll bump any day of the week for anyone because my body feels good.
Man, you made me think now. I would love to see a face-off on the mic. LA Knight versus John Cena, man. They would kill it, those two.
Yeah, it really just comes down to, does the person believe what they're saying? And again, LA Knight is as famous as he is today because of the work he's put into every aspect. Food commercials, exercise videos, anything to pay the bills to keep the dream alive. Yeah. That's why he gets the respect, even though he's newer, right, to the wrestling WWE world. Again, he was, Eli Drake, he was all these other gimmicks, but this one stuck because it was the best packaging that I've ever seen, really, for a guy to make an entrance. Him too, just like I told you about Dawkins, was set up to fail. He was set up to be Bray Wyatt's jobber.
That's right.
That was the whole setup. Just lose, and let Bray rise to the top. And he was so good at what he did that, where's Bray Wyatt today?
Remember Dexter Lumis? He's still kind of around.
Dexter Lumis, yeah.
He's kind of
Dexter Lumis, actually.
He's kind of hanging out with Johnny Gargano,
yeah,
Johnny Wrestling. They're gonna have their faction again.
Playing poker with JBL.
Yeah, Jobber Poker is still going. But Dexter Lumis, it's funny because I turn on my TV and I'm watching the old YouTube videos for NWA, Billy Corgan's promotion.
Yep.
And guess what? You're seeing Dexter Lumis on WWE TV. You turn on 3 months ago, he was over in St. Louis wrestling and putting in times in the Indies. And guess what? Hard work does pay off. So
100%.
As we sum up today's episode, and again, Mason, you put in all the time with us for the last 3 weeks, sharing your insights, your story. The fans appreciate it. I appreciate it. You are my best only wrestling client, but you're doing a great job of it. I got to ask you now, we got the meeting. Last thing, we got Tony Khan, we got Triple H, we got Nick Khan, any Khan, in wrestling that wants to sit down with us. We got Steven, William Regal, whatever he wants to go by today.
He's a man.
What a man. So they ask you, Mason Rush, my friend, we only got one question for you. What are your goals in professional wrestling?
I wish it was that simple of a question. When I first was asked this question by my coach, friends, whatever, the obvious answer is, I want to go to the WWE. But that's like me asking a kid, what do you want to be? I want to be a hockey player, right? It's my answer to everybody who says to me, what do you want to do with this? Where do you want to take it? Is thankfully for me, I don't need to do this for money. I do this for passion and because I love it. If that allows me to make a career and someone sees a video or a promo and I get a shot somewhere, unreal. But it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go as far as I can. I don't have I'm going to be here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do as best as I can. And if people notice and want me to wrestle on their shows, that's what we're going to do.
It's a great answer. And as you leave that studio from the interview and we sum up today and then somebody comes up to you and they say to you, hey, what's your name again? What would be your response?
Easy. I am Mason Rush, and you are welcome.
We thank you. We do thank you. You are credited to professional wrestling. This is why professional wrestling exists. You are the epitome of what wrestling needs to be. And you got great coaching. You got a bright future ahead of you. We're going to make sure we manage that all the way to the stars
100%.
and to the moon. And we thank the fans, because without this, there is no fans, there is no wrestling. So send in your comments, send in your questions. Mason Rush, 33 on Instagram. And we'll see you all soon on Professional Wrestling.
Shout out Hamilton Pro Wrestling. Shout out Super Kicked.
Cheers.